I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey Dave, I'm thinking about doing another revolution. Do you want to join up? I might need some help with organising the pamphlets though.
Pop Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, are people talking about Princess Kate being missing again, or something happening to her, or am I just spending too much time on X?
You're spending too much time on X.
So we're done with that.
There's people thinking that she should be making public appearances, but with the announcement she made months ago that I don't think that you should expect anything. You should respect her privacy.
Yeah. Hello. This is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
We are licensed ministers, and we like talking about pop culture. So sometimes, a lot of times we talk movies and television and music, video games. Sometimes we talk about social media and things going on there. Every once in a while, have we ever talked about politics? I don't think we really have.
It has crept into a few discussions, but it's not dwelt upon.
Yeah.
That's how I'll word it.
Anyways, that's where you're at. Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. This episode, we do this about a couple times a year. We call them Pop Culture Latelys, where we're just kind of in between our big main point episodes, and we decide, hey, let's talk about all the little small things we've kind of been into that won't carry a whole episode on their own. And so Cody and I come with a list of just kind of some of the things we're into lately. That'll be coming up in the main part. But as always, we start with the news, Cody. Well, actually, first of all, I have a birthday shout out that I need to make first. I need to wish Abigail from Florida a very happy birthday. And I'm going to sing a little song.
Did you write it?
No, the Beatles did.
Oh, okay.
You say it's your birthday. It's my birthday too. Yes, it's not really my birthday though. That's a lie.
Okay. Well, we're not about that.
No, we don't like lying.
But we are about celebrating your birthday.
Happy birthday, Abigail. I hope it's a good one.
Feliz cumpleaños.
I mean, if you're listening to this episode of Pop Culture Pastor, it's already pretty awesome.
You're welcome.
Your parents are kind of cool too.
Yes.
All right. The first bit of news. Are you familiar with Zachary Quinto?
Yes.
Zachary Quinto, I think most people probably remember him from the TV show Heroes, where he played the villain Sylar. Really cool villain, actually, at least for one season. And then he's probably most well known from being Spock in the Star Trek kind of reboot series. And he's currently in one of the Law and Order shows, maybe? Oh, no, it's Brilliant Minds.
That is a completely different show.
I thought you were going to say it was made up. Like, no, there's plenty of people over 50 watching it. So you're wrong. Somebody's got to carry broadcasting and stuff for the over 50 set, which I'm very close to. And CBS says we will take up the mantle.
NCIS.
NCIS, Kansas City.
You didn't even know that we needed a Navy presence in KC, but now you do.
It's just like CSI. You got to have them everywhere.
Miami, Florida is where you really needed it.
They should just start putting Horatio in other shows. Anyway, Zachary Quinto made some noise at a Toronto restaurant. Manita's? It's a fancy restaurant, apparently, and he was there for brunch. They said, according to a social media post by the restaurant, he allegedly yelled at staffers like, quote, this is their words, not mine, the restaurant's words, like an entitled child. Said he's an amazing Spock, but a terrible customer. Take your bad vibes elsewhere. We have many lovely celebrities join us at Manita, but you are not one of them. And unless he formally apologizes, they've made it known on their social media posts that he will not be welcome at Manita. Co-owner Ian McGranahan said in an email to the Times. He also said, we aren't above criticism, but we are above being demeaned. Manita is deeply grateful for our most incredibly friendly, gracious guests. So here's my question for you. Because this happens a lot. You know, the guy working the drive-thru at McDonald's probably been yelled at 5 times tonight.
I am not that person yelling, so.
Why do people think it's okay to yell at service industry people?
Mealtime is where we kind of go for respite. We want a break. We want something that is prepared for us that we don't have to stress about. We kind of want it our way. We want to be able to relax, enjoy the company of the people that we're with. And when something goes wrong, and especially after like a stressful day or a stressful week or whatever is going on in your life, it feels like a personal attack, even though it's not a personal attack. We all make mistakes, and on our best days, we might be able to say, that's okay, no sweat. But if you're not having your best day, then you lash out. And then there's some people, and I don't want to be judgmental, but Zachary Quinto seems like the type that is a little bit more well-to-do, snobby, and will voice if something is not to his standard or liking. Not that I, again, don't want to judge Zachary Quinto. He might actually be a lovely human being, but he just comes across that way in interviews that I've seen with him. But I think that you can talk to nurses, you can talk to teachers, you can talk to even your garbage or rubbish collectors, if you will.
Rubbish?
Rubbish.
Who are you? A 70-year-old from Britain?
Yes.
Rubbish?
They will tell you. I get yelled at. I have to put up with stuff I don't want to put up with. I think that the fast food people and the food industry as a whole gets the brunt of everybody else's lament.
Yeah, I used to work at a gas station in my early 20s. And I used to tell people that asked what that was like. So, well, you catch the brunt of everyone else's bad day. That was shockingly wise things to know at my age, because I didn't know much back then. But it helped me not get as reactive when it happened. Because if I thought instead of, oh, this person's just really mean, if I went right to, oh, they're having a bad day, it helped me not leap in, all guns blazing like some people are wont to do. Gave me a moment of pause, as it were. Apparently, the what happened from some witnesses was he didn't get a table. This is apparently a very popular, haughty restaurant. I don't know. I shouldn't say haughty, but, uppity.
Did you say it's in Toronto?
I did.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so he didn't, they didn't have a table for him. And it seems like he big timed them and like, do you know who I am?
Oh, Zachary,
I'm sorry, I don't watch CBS and I'm not over 50, bro.
You should have done that move about 10 years ago, buddy.
The second question, the restaurant, because this isn't the first time this has happened where they've taken to social media to kind of name the person because they're known and then like blasted them on social media. Now he's posting unrelated things on Instagram. Apparently it was his 47th birthday. So happy birthday, Zach, if you're listening to this.
Sorry for being judgmental earlier.
But people are now commenting and blasting him on unrelated posts that he's making on social media. And I guess what I want to say is the restaurant's response okay? Is this what we want in our culture? Like, I get he was mean and out of line. I'm not saying he wasn't.
It kind of depends. So if they initiate this and they make their own post, and I really had issue with them demanding an apology, you can just say, dude's banned from your restaurant. It doesn't matter if he apologizes or not, because whatever happened, and it was so bad that you thought he didn't deserve to go back to your restaurant. Or it really wasn't that big of a deal, and the apology isn't going to fix anything, so quit blasting him online. Now, if someone else like recorded a video and was like, these people were being jerk faces to Zachary Quinto, and then they responded to that, then I'm okay with them providing context. But again, the apology thing was the line that I'm like, Well, that's stupid. He either said something that was so offensive that you don't want him to be at your establishment, or it was nothing.
Follow-up question. If he's banned from their restaurant, if he's got the lifetime ban, do they have a little picture of him at the front? And is it a picture of Spock? And is it a good thing Leonard Nimoy is not still around? Because maybe they'd get confused and they wouldn't let Leonard Nimoy in because, he's Spock. What if they hire a new maitre d'? They don't know.
Yep.
They get up there in the front and Zachary shows up because he heard they hired a new maitre d'. And he's like, oh, this is my moment. I'm going to get back into Morisco's or Myrtledov's or whatever it is in Toronto and have me some brunch. And they're like, you may come right in. Come in, Mr. Quinto. And then the owner's like, no.
Literally, if you told me Zachary Quinto is banned from coming into our radio station, unless he really hasn't changed that much in the past decade, I might not recognize him. If he looks and dresses like Spock, I'll be like, no, sir, you're banned.
Interesting fact, Cody's banned from the Hutchison Chili's. For similar, no, I'm just kidding. He's not. Cody would never be banned from anywhere.
Not from a Chili's.
I feel God in this Chili's tonight. Okay, we have Nick Cage news.
All the Cage.
And it's from director of National Treasure, John Turteltaub, who was asked about was there any chance that they were going to make another National Treasure movie. This was his response. 100%. He said 100%. He said, we do have to hurry because people are both getting older and less interested and lives are changing and all that. And the world changes. Our culture is changing since the first movie was made, socially, certainly politically, and I don't even know what he's talking about. Like, why are you saying all this?
He's going too deep for National Treasure.
I'm sorry, was National Treasure 1? Does it not hold up? Was there some social things that wouldn't hold up there today? I don't remember them.
Ben was a little cavalier.
So, National Treasure 3, Cody, you up for this?
My parents absolutely are up for this.
Yeah. Somehow it just fits with me that your parents would be National Treasure lovers.
They would actually probably go to the movie theaters to watch this, and they don't go to the movies ever. Ever. This would be, if you want to save cinema at the movie theater, release National Treasure 3. I'll watch it. It's not like, oh, I must get out and watch this. It's not must viewing.
I mean, it's not Scorsese.
Nope.
Is there any American treasure left? What treasure are we talking about here? What about like the Dalton Gang treasure?
Dalton Gang, Jesse James has treasure hidden still. Or we can look for Indiana Jones' Ark of the Covenant treasure that is just in a warehouse somewhere.
We're not going to combine. We're not going to combine.
Disney
franchises.
owns both.
Yeah, but Disney
owns both.
Disney needs to work on getting one franchise right.
This is the thing that will save all the franchises. Somehow Star Wars will be included.
I somehow doubt it. Oh, do not. Don't you put that on us, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that on us. Yeah, I don't know. I'm here for it. I like the National Treasure, the first one. The second one, it's a bit rough. The next piece of news is apparently Jordan Peele met with Marvel. Jordan Peele, director of Get Out, Us, Nope, it met with Marvel. And just right off the top of my head, I'm like, that's wild. His movies are very kind of cerebral, obviously have a racial undertone to them. I didn't watch Us.
Us was good.
But Get Out and Nope clearly have an underlying racial tension through it. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, well, what movie did he meet for?
Or is he going to go back to his comedy roots? And it is going to be a comedic
Why would you do that?
movie.
You can go get 1,000 comedic directors.
Because this one will have an intelligent message somewhere hidden in it, because even his comedy did.
I immediately thought of Midnight Suns, which there's all sorts of rumors going on now that Blade, the movie Blade they're making with, what's his name, Mahershala Ali.
If that ever gets made.
If it ever gets made, right. And then there was all sorts of rumors that Moon Knight season 2 was happening and it was going to lead directly into Midnight Suns.
I did hear that one guy who...
That was descriptive. Listen, you're not going to get that kind of hard-hitting news anywhere else.
That was in Breaking Bad and was in the Star Wars series.
Oh, Giancarlo.
Yeah, he's going to be one of Moon Knight's big bad villains. That's who he actually is going to play in an upcoming Marvel project. Is one of the main villains.
Where
from
did you
Moon
hear
Knight.
that?
It was on X.
Because he's going to be in Captain America.
Yeah,
he's in the new Captain.
He's in
but
the NWO.
But he's a Moon Knight villain.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm really confused. Well, if we're just dreaming, because Jordan Peele, that would be a hit. That would be a win for Marvel. What if they're looking at him for the X-Men movie that you know is coming? He'd be perfect for an X-Men movie.
Bushman.
Bushman?
Yep.
What? That would be a waste. Why would you use that guy, that actor for Bushman?
'Cause Moon Knight. And NWO.
No.
For life.
For life. X-Men, even, hear me out, Spider-Man 4. The neighborhood feel, the neighborhood Spider-Man, gritty, street crime level. You put some Jordan Peele on that.
I think X-Men before Spider-Man.
He's like, yeah, that's it. That's all, just X-Men. I'm with you. I think he most fits with an X-Men movie. If you didn't know, X-Men is literally an allegory for the civil rights movement when it's created.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense that
unless
they get Jordan Peele
he
to
is
do
finally going to be the one to helm Blade.
Too late for that. That one should be that should be in production.
That's been rumored to be in production like 6 different times. Have him direct Blade.
All righty. Let's take a break and go out to the lobby. You want to go out to the lobby?
Yes, I do.
All right. And we are going to answer listener questions when we come back.
Welcome to the lobby.
All right, we're back. We're in the lobby. I'm getting some nachos. Getting ready for the main event. Cody getting his chocolate-covered grossness. Dried up fruit.
It's what 80s kids do, Dave.
Stop it. Would you stop? He's already reacting to a question that I told him not to react to until we got to it. He's already stating his case.
I'm just letting you know facts about me.
All right.
Facts about Cody.
As always, we come out to the lobby to answer listener questions. If you follow us online, on our social media, in particular, Facebook's the best place to find us, even though we're on X and on Instagram too. You can ask us questions and then be featured on the pod.
Boom.
There you go. You guys got to be on the lookout. You got to follow us to do that. Kyle Kessinger, one of our most regular askers of questions.
He asks good questions.
He does, and I think he's from. I always get this wrong. Oskaloosa or McLouth?
Those are 2 different places.
It's one of those towns up there north of Lawrence.
The greater Lawrence metro area.
He says, how about the age-old question? David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar? Gary Sharon is not an option. LOL. Personally, I like them both, but I grew up with Sammy, and For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album is my favorite. This is about Van Halen for those in Cody who don't know.
Oh! I definitely know, buddy.
He is the 80s. I love that our listeners are into this.
So I will say, for those who don't know, there were two genres of music that I was allowed to listen to growing up.
Oh, allowed?
Yeah, well,
You didn't grow up Christian, though, right?
I did not. So it was just really what was on in my parents' vehicles.
Oh, okay.
So country music, so like 90s, early aughts. Yeah.
You're getting a lot of Alan Jackson.
So much Alan Jackson.
You were way down yonder on the Chattahoochee.
I was. And then 60s, 70s, and 80s. And
It's a good mix.
a heavy portion of 80s. With that being said, I'm a Dave TV kind of guy. David Lee Roth.
Okay.
I-
you're allowed to be wrong.
Okay, so what do you think is their most popular song? Because I will tell you, it's an action verb that
Yeah.
is yelled out by a one David Lee Roth.
I mean, it's probably only their most popular song because it's a sports anthem now. That's where you hear it at sporting events, in particular basketball.
You might as well jump, Dave.
Yeah,
You might as well jump.
Okay, like I'm not arguing with you. That might be their most popular song.
How about you go to Panama? How about you go there, Dave?
Okay, I'm just saying, isn't it interesting though that some of us who actually lived through the 80s prefer Van Hagar?
I will say, honestly, Running with the Devil might be my favorite Van Halen song.
Wow, you're gonna get kicked out of the church.
Yes.
And Cody was defrocked. Is that the right word, or did I just say someone like took your clothes off? That's weird. I don't know the terminology. You were excommunicated.
There we go.
No, it's obviously you're splitting hairs. Because
Yes.
it's not like Van
And-
Halen with David Lee Roth is not good. No,
I'm
it's
going
great.
to say I honestly like Sammy's solo career better between the two because both did have solo careers.
Yeah.
And Sammy actually he produced good music that I cared to listen to.
Well, he
Where-
had a way bigger hit than David
Yeah.
Lee Roth ever had on his own, which is I Can't Drive 55. Sammy Hagar did that on his own before he joined Van Halen. I will say for albums, I think you're right. David Lee Roth, Van Halen has some of the bigger songs, individual songs. There's Hot for Teacher.
Yep.
There's several in that era. But for albums, like the strength, the quality of an entire album, like Kessinger's right, Kyle's right. That For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album is incredible. And I wore cassette tapes out. Listen to that bad boy, because that was a good album.
It's not bad.
And we will not speak of the Gary Sharon era. That was the dude from Extreme, who after Sammy Hagar left, then they brought back David Lee Roth for like the reunion tour. And it lasted like 2 weeks before David Lee Roth made him mad. And then they kicked him out and they made an album with Gary Sharon as the front man. And ooh, was that not good.
So I will say that I do think that one thing we can all agree on is Eddie Van Halen was very talented.
Not just, Eddie Van Halen's incredible. I always find that like his brother, the drummer, doesn't get the credit he should get either. He's a fantastic drummer.
He's the other forgotten Van Halen.
Sometimes, it's in particular, the song Right Now, I think is a great drumming song. And it's my favorite part of that song. A lot of cowbell, too,
More cowbell.
which makes Christopher Walken happy. All right, next question. This is from Eric Farmer right here in Chanute, Kansas.
Familiar with the area.
This is a Star Wars question, which I know that Eric's a huge fan of. I should say Eric has a Darth Revan tattoo on his forearm,
Oh.
which is, not in the canon. That's the expanded universe, the legends, what they call it in Star Wars. So that's pertinent to the question he's about to ask. Do you feel the expanded universe / legends part of Star Wars should be considered as canon? And why do you feel Kathleen Kennedy should be fired immediately? That's awesome. We'll get to Kathleen Kennedy in a second. Star Wars has a weird relationship with the extra story stuff because there are tons of great stuff written after the original trilogy, stuff that they are kind of adapting now with Thrawn in the Ahsoka series. But there was great stuff written in books, novels, comic books that Lucasfilm said, no, none of it's canon. It's all part of just this. Well, they called it it's called the Legends universe, and they're basically saying, well, it's kind of fan fiction. It's not canon.
For me, this isn't Tolkien.
Yes, right.
Okay, let's slow our roll here, Lucas, of the George variety. And family and friends.
To be fair, I think when Lucas sold it to Disney, it wasn't him anymore. I think he was just kind of like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. But it was Disney that said, no, it's still not canon. And then you wonder, like, well, why not? Start adapting some of it, which they have now, but it took them to get, the guy that did Mandalorian to come on board and start doing it.
So for me, I think that it should be canon, that you can treat it like DC has their Elseworlds, their Black Label. It's in its own kind of space, but it's a part of the whole universe of stuff. And so I think that works for me. Also, again, like if I'm going to have to say episode 9 is in my canon, then I am going to put something that's far superior in.
Here's what I would say to fans, too, about canon. I'd say the same thing to the Tolkien heads.
And the Whovians are like...
Are they like that, too?
They're very uptight about what's canon, what's not. There was a movie made in the early 90s that some people are like, that's not canon, he's not a doctor. And then some people are like, oh, yes, he is.
So Star Wars, Tolkien heads, Whovians, listen up. Include what you want in your heart canon. Like, if you don't like it, then just don't include it. Don't watch it. Don't read it. Don't take it in. If you do like it, say, yes, this is canon for me. I guess I just don't understand the big deal about whether Lucasfilm says it's canon or not, unless they actually try to adapt the storyline. But then if they adapt the storyline, they're clearly trying to make it canon.
Yes.
And then they might not do it the same. Then you run into the stuff Lord of the Rings is running into with Rings of Power, which we've had a conversation about.
So another Lucasfilm family of projects, but done by my friend Stevie, Indiana Jones. I only acknowledge 3 of them. So
yeah, really, I mean, that's a great example. Like for me, the canon of Indiana Jones is those 3 original movies. That's it.
I did not watch the 4th one until the 5th one was about to come out, and they made me record a podcast episode.
It's so bad. Okay, Kathleen Kennedy who is the CEO of Lucasfilm. She's doing interviews because they got the Acolyte show that's about to come out. I'd considered like, well, do we need to do a watch along with this? But it's getting very mixed reviews, which most Star Wars stuff does nowadays. And they've been struggling. I think it's fair to say they've been struggling. Even things you thought would be hits. The Obi-Wan show got very mixed reviews. The storytelling in it was very kind of all over the place. Didn't seem real focused. Even Mandalorian season 3, which I know you liked.
I did.
Most people were below. The ratings were below where season 1 and season 2 were.
Oh, I'm just saying you jabronis are going to lose us Pedro Pascal in his universe.
Anyways, Kathleen Kennedy was speaking about The Acolyte with show's creator Leslie Headland. She said this, quote, operating within these giant franchises now with social media and the level of expectation, it's terrifying. I think Leslie has struggled a little bit with it. I think a lot of the women who step into Star Wars struggle with this a bit more because of the fan base being so male-dominated, they sometimes get attacked in ways that can be quite personal. My belief is that storytelling does need to be representative of all people. That's an easy decision for me. Now, on the surface, I don't disagree with anything she said. However, I'm going to tell you why I don't like this.
Okay.
Because she's already offering excuses. She's trying to deflect. At no time has Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm ever taken responsibility for saying, you know what? We could have tightened up the scripts on those a little more. We could have tightened up the story a little bit. It's always even more so than Marvel. But like, check this with Marvel. In the last 2 weeks, Feige came out and said, hey, we haven't been up to par. They took responsibility and said, we got to be better. You cross that with Kathleen Kennedy, who's still out there being like, well, essentially it's these sexist, racist people who are saying it's bad and it's not. When in reality, no, I think it's fair to say overall, Star Wars as a whole has not been great over the last, since the original trilogy. The prequels are hit and miss, but that's Lucas. Then Kathleen Kennedy is in charge for everything else after that.
The stories that come out with the sequels, episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Complete mismanagement.
Oh, we don't really have a story. And we want these directors to take it to wherever they want to. But then when one pushes the envelope in episode 8, we go back to 9, and then we retcon a whole bunch of stuff and it doesn't make sense. And you need to have a point that you're aiming towards for each movie if you're going to make a movie. You just don't willy-nilly it, especially with a beloved franchise. I think that she should retire. I'm not about firing people.
Cody does not like confrontation. So if you're going to fire her, we're going to need to send someone else to do it.
I am going to encourage her to retire while she's towards the bottom and not completely at the bottom.
Cody's like, well, maybe if we just don't say anything, she'll just leave on her own. Let's do the speed round. A couple questions speed round. David Allen from Florida says, the 90s console war between Nintendo and Sega. Which side were you on and why?
Nintendo, and that was because I had a 64 as my first real console, and they also had the handheld Game Boy.
Not the 64, though.
I know. I'm saying that's why I'm choosing Nintendo.
Oh, okay. All right.
But by that time, I think Nintendo had already blown Sega out of the waters.
Yeah, was it Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis? That
Yeah.
was where the big ones.
And I had friends that had Super Nintendos. I did not. My parents didn't love me.
Oh, man, we needed to bring the sad violin music this week. That's the second time the parents' denial of Cody's pop culture has stunted him.
Yes, but no, the Game Boy really put it over the edge.
Yeah.
Because I had the Game Boy long before.
I would say definitely Nintendo, just for the solid
Catalog of games?
quality of catalog of games. However, I will say, I still think some of the best sports games ever made for video game systems were made for the Sega Genesis. The EA games on Sega Genesis were great. NBA Live and NHL hockey, 95-ish, somewhere around those years. College football was amazing. The Madden games were amazing on Sega Genesis. They were just really, really good.
Star Fox. That's all you need to say.
Star Fox was pretty good, too. This question comes from Danica Giesman from Wichita, wife of Geek of the Round Table member Jason Giesman. She can be a geek, too.
It sounds
she's
like
one of us. One of us! Anyways, which Comic-Con is at the top of your bucket list?
Wouldn't it be San Diego?
I mean, yeah, either San Diego or New York Comic-Con would be a dream to go
New
to.
York, you're going to get all the celebs. And potentially even just walking around for kicks and giggles.
I mean, we'd love to just go. It would be a ridiculous dream to go as Pop Culture Pastor. To have a booth, that'd be beyond our wildest dreams.
It would be.
But yeah, either New York or San Diego. I'm not even picky. I'll go to either one.
At this point, you can just send this to Oklahoma City or Denver.
Denver's like the next one on the horizon that's pretty big around these parts.
Chicago has a few.
That we would like to go. Oh, yeah, the Chicago one's pretty big, too. Mm-hmm. I'd like to go to that one. Okay. That's it for the lobby questions. Now we'll go back into the studio to hit our main topic. It's a Pop Culture Lately episode. Stick around to find out what pop culture things Cody and I have been into lately. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. It's time for Pop Culture Lately here on the Pop Culture Pastor podcast. As I said earlier in the show, this is where we do this a couple times a year where Cody and I just share some quick little hitters, some little things that we've kind of been into that wouldn't take up a bigger show.
I mean, it could, but I don't know if you'd want to listen.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just got a few things that we'd like to talk about. And Cody, would you like to lead off?
Yes, I would. So there is a show that is not only on Peacock, but it's also on Netflix. But you're going to find season 3 on Peacock, where season 2 or 1 and 2 are only on Netflix. But
What?
Peacock has 1, 2, and 3. It's
So complicated.
It's a show that is on the Sci-Fi Channel, which means NBC/Peacock owns it, which is why Peacock
Now they
has
do.
it. Well, they've owned it for...
Well, why is it on Netflix?
Because Netflix can pay to have shows on there. Oh. So it's not a Netflix original. It's definitely a Sci-Fi Channel flick. Resident Alien. Alan Tudyk? Is that how you say it?
Tudyk? I think it's Tudyk.
However you say his name. The man of 1,000 voices is what I'm referring to him as, is in this, and he plays Harry. And Harry is actually, well, there's 2 Harrys. There was Harry the doctor, and then Harry that was an alien that took on the image of Harry the doctor.
Ooh,
and
that's creepy.
Killed Harry.
What?
Sorry.
Oh.
You'll learn that like 2 seconds into the show.
Oh, spoiler.
Yeah. But anyway, he tries to live out his life in Colorado while trying to find pieces to help him complete his mission. And his mission changes over the seasons. It's hilarious. Everything he knows is like from Law and Order and the internet. And so...
Avid CBS watcher.
Yes.
Or Paramount, whatever it is now.
And it is just hilarious to watch him interact with people and the people, their responses to him. There's so many great storylines within this show. And again, hilarious. So watch it.
I've heard it was good, and I've thought, oh, man, I need to watch that. But
Oh, Linda Hamilton's in it.
oh, there you go.
Yeah. As we are facing an AI crisis, Linda Hamilton's still with us.
Ever since her and Jimmy Cameron broke up, I've always been Team Linda.
Me too.
I will give it a shot, but it's going to take a lot to supplant rewatches of my favorite alien show, which is Alf. I'm just kidding. I'm not rewatching Alf. I tried to watch the first couple episodes with my kids here some years back and thought, oh, how did we ever like this? This is awful.
Because the laugh track is perfectly placed.
I am a huge fan, or was a huge fan, I should say, of a group called the Avett Brothers.
Familiar with them.
Yeah, music group. They're 2 brothers, and they're surrounded by I don't know if he's their best friend or good friend. He's been with them for ages. And then they added a couple other members, strings members, a violin player, fiddle player, and a cello player over the years. And one brother plays the banjo, another plays the guitar. They both sing, have wonderful harmonies. And over the years, their sound has kind of evolved. They are still one of my favorite live acts I've ever seen. They put on amazing concerts. I've probably been to 6 or 7 Avett Brothers concerts. They never play songs the same way twice, it seems like. It's just wonderful. They're a wonderful group. Over the years, as bands do, their sound kind of changed and evolved, and I felt like kind of a little out of love with them, although I still like them, but I just preferred their older stuff. But they just came out with a new album here in the last couple of weeks. It's self-titled, it's Avett Brothers, which I thought was interesting. And it still has a way more polished sound than the stuff I really liked of theirs. But it's almost like they're getting older now. Because at one time they kind of described their sound as a mixture of Nirvana and bluegrass. I think that was kind of a way that what they were aiming for. And that's an interesting sound. But I found this album to be on first listen to be very contemplative as they get older and just really, really good. And if you want to give the Avett Brothers a try, and you've never heard of them, you've never listened to them, this will be a good album to jump in on. It's a good intro course to them and pleasing and not too far off the beaten path. And then if you like it, go back and listen to their old stuff because it's amazing.
If the Avett Brothers are Nirvana meets bluegrass, would Judah and the Lion be Soundgarden meets bluegrass?
Maybe. That's a pretty good mix.
If you haven't heard Judah and the Lion, they're interesting. I really like them, but
what about Anthrax meets bluegrass? Because they do rap occasionally.
Do.
And that Anthrax did that song with Public Enemy. Turn it up, bring the noise. You remember that? All my 80s kids, where we at?
right here.
Right here, Cody says. What's next on your pop culture lately?
So I will say I've been into offbeat comic book properties like Resident Alien being turned into TV series. But one of the ones that I watched recently, it's a Netflix property, just debuted like a month or two ago. Dead Boy Detectives, partially from the mind of Neil Gaiman and someone else.
I've never heard of this. What is this on?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, you said that.
I did. And it's in the Sandman universe, which Dave still hasn't watched.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Can we go one episode without getting dumped on because I haven't watched Sandman yet?
They're making season 2, Dave. You need to watch it.
It's hard for me if no one else in my fam wants to watch something with me. I got to carve out time to watch it on my own.
I will say episode, I think 6 will make you cry. Dead Boy Detectives.
Won't be the first time today.
It is about 2 dead teens who investigate supernatural mysteries because dead people are supposed to move on in the afterlife. Like Death, who is one of Sandman's siblings, is supposed to come and get people. But if there is unresolved issues, she can't come and get them. And so the Dead Boy Detectives are hired to help resolve these issues, solve these mysteries, and they end up in some mysteries of their own, and you find out their backstory of how each one of them kind of died and what they did in their afterlife before meeting up. So you would not have heard of any of the thespians that are in this, although Michael Beach has been in some things.
Never heard of her.
Brianna Kyoko.
Nope.
Is
Don't know her.
Kaylee Kyoko's sister.
Oh, I know her.
Yeah. Big
right.
Bang Theory. Her sister, Penny's sister, is in this. There's living people in this that get to interact with the dead people because they had near-death experiences.
Well, you know they're actors. They're not really dead.
How dare you? So if you are looking for like kind of murder mystery supernatural shows to fill the void of murder mystery supernatural shows,
Or if you were a fan of Supernatural and you just really miss it.
yeah, Dead Boy Detectives. If you like Neil Gaiman, Sandman, Coraline, Good Omens, you will enjoy this.
I have found from the next thing on my list to set it up, I found that a lot of the stuff I've been into recently I've been revisiting something that I previously liked a lot and spent some time with.
Dr. Seuss.
No, not that far back. But I had found that my gaming had pretty much ceased as far as consoles. I hadn't really been a gamer very much in the last few years. And just on a whim, I updated a game that I hadn't played in a few years because it's an ongoing game that's always getting updated. And even more curiously, it's a first-person shooter, which is not usually my bag. I've been playing PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, PUBG, as the kids call it.
What?
Yeah, I've been playing PUBG, and I've been playing it a lot and enjoying it, actually. I'm still terrible at it. I would just be awful in a military situation. But I just like it. I like the game. It's pretty, I think it's pretty easy to pick up and play. Unlike, I've tried playing Call of Duty with friends and stuff, and it's just too much. It's too much for me. But for some reason, I can just figure out PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. And I've actually won a couple chicken dinners. That's what they call it when you win the game.
Oh.
So basically, it's like Fortnite, Call of Duty, where you get dropped with 99 other people, and you're on teams. Usually, you're on teams of 4, and you're as a unit, you're trying to be the last unit standing as the playing field shrinks.
I don't know how I feel about the playing field shrinking.
Well, I mean, it has to. It's a pretty big world you get dropped into originally.
Start off medium-sized, people.
But I've been enjoying it, and I like it. And hey, if anyone out there listening plays PUBGs, then, hit me up on social media. Send us a message so you can get my gamer tag and we can play some PUBG together. I am very average, but I won't kill your team. I'm a good role player.
That's how I was with Halo 3.
Yeah. I won't win you the game, but I won't lose you the game. I promise that.
Halo 2, I was a wild card, and I would either help you win it big time or you would be dying
Or
quick.
you would make a big, embarrassing failure. All right, what's next on your pop culture lead?
Since you mentioned Fortnite, I will have to go with
Fortnite? Are you playing
the
Fortnite?
song.
Oh,
Actually, the whole album from Taylor Swift, The Tortured Poets Department.
what does that have to do with Fortnite?
She has a song with Post Malone called Fortnite.
Does she?
Yes. This album is interesting. So I have not listened to the whole anthology album.
Are you a Swiftie?
I am a Swiftie to a degree. Like, I'm not like super hardcore. I must stalk where Taylor and Travis are every second of every hour and must analyze all the lyrics. But within this, it's interesting because, like, I really want teens and young adults, the Gen Z people, to listen. If even just 5% of this is autobiographical, you are going to realize that stardom, celebrity, fame is not everything. That there's a lot of pressures, that it takes a toll on the mental health. And there's a lot of mental health talk throughout the album. Some of it talking about getting help, some of it talking about coping in negative ways. This album's really good. It has a unique sound to it because one song might sound like it's almost 80s new wave, and then like it might sound indie acoustic the next song, and so like there's a good mixture of sound. The lyrics are good. Some of the songs are really, really catchy earworms. And if you are a Kansas City Chiefs fan, there are a few songs that may or may not be about my friend Travis Kelce.
I knew next to nothing about Taylor Swift until she started dating someone on the football team I like. And what I have learned about Taylor, because what I knew was very minimal, basically that she wrote songs about dudes she dated, and it ended poorly, usually.
Sometime it was okay, but
Breakup songs, as the kids would call it.
look at you, dear John.
That she dated, and I knew she dated John Mayer and the werewolf guy from Twilight.
Taylor Lautner.
But what I've found about Taylor, since I've gotten to know her more now that she's in my pop culture worldview, is one, she's been around for a while.
Oh, yeah.
She's been like famous and popular, and people have liked her music for a lot longer than I really realized.
So she's my age. We're both 1989ers, and I think
Children of the 80s.
Yes. I think that she was like 17 or 16 when she first came onto the scene, and so she's going to turn 35 this year. I'm already there.
And
she's been around.
The other thing I've learned about her is she's, by all accounts, an amazing person. Does a lot of charity work, and I mean a lot.
Very talented, plays multiple instruments, writes her own lyrics.
Everyone that like knows her loves her.
former Kansas City Chiefs player Colin Saunders, his brother is one of her dancers, Cam. And Cam is a Swiftie favorite because he's just very animated and funny. So if you haven't watched the Eras tour and you just like watching concerts, it's worth it if you like Taylor Swift music.
I feel like I've learned a lot about her just by listening to the Kelsey Brothers podcast.
Yep.
Was it In the Heights or no? That's the movie.
New Heights.
That's the Broadway thing. New Heights. The next thing on my list is another thing I've revisited. I gotta say, I always watch a sitcom before I go to bed. And
Frasier.
For years. Salad and scrambled eggs. No, not Frasier. For years, it's been Friends. I've been just an avid Friends watcher on Nick at Night for years. I don't know how many times I've watched Friends all the way through, but I'm guessing it's in the 15 to 20 range. When I say I watch at least an episode every night before bed, that's what I mean. And so I've seen Friends so many times through. And one night here in the last couple months, I thought, you know what? I need a new show. I'm getting worn out on the Friends.
Peacemaker?
No, I can't watch that before I go to bed. It's got to be a sitcom. Weren't you listening?
Is HBO series not sitcom?
A sitcom? No. A sitcom is something light and airy. It's usually funny.
Peacemaker?
It's short for situation comedy. Anyways.
It's situational.
I've gone back to a show I'd only watched one time through, and I've forgotten how funny it was. And that is a show starring Zooey Deschanel, and it's called New Girl. That show, name a better show other than Friends where the ensemble of the cast was better. Because the ensemble of that cast, after the first season, after they get rid of Coach, after Damon Wayans Jr. goes away, and they bring in Winston, and you have to forgive me, I don't remember his name, but they really, and it's not Damon Wayans Jr. fault.
He comes back.
Yeah, he does. It's just that whoever plays Winston just fit in so perfectly with them that unit together was amazing. And I am just really enjoying New Girl through my second watch.
So I will say that occasionally we'll pop on an episode of New Girl, especially Schmidt's bachelor party episode. Where they go to the desert, and Rob Riggle is guest starring in that. Lamorne Morris, yes. He was in the newest season of Fargo, too, and he was amazing in that. Winnie Bish.
Winnie the Bish, yes.
He is hilarious in that episode. And so if you just want to tune in for a random episode, that's a good one to tune into.
That cast is such a good cast that it's been interesting to see them do the Friends thing where they've gone out and tried to do their own thing, and they haven't enjoyed a lot of success. Schmidt was on another sitcom, and
Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah, but it wasn't nearly as good as this one.
I'm not here for Cedric the Entertainer slander.
What's the actor who plays Nick? You're sitting there looking at it, right? He's in the
Jake Johnson.
He's in the Spider-Verse movies as the voice of Peter B. Parker.
He was in a underrated but good movie called Self-Reliance.
Yeah. So but he hasn't been as big as I think people thought that he was going to be.
I never thought he was going to be huge, but I thought that he fits a niche that I like.
Lamorne Morris was fantastic in the new season of Fargo. Really, that should have been on my list too, because the new season of Fargo is fantastic. But all the seasons of Fargo are really good. And those also use like an ensemble cast where they're good. Also in the new season of Fargo, Juno Temple from Ted Lasso is one of the main characters in it.
Spoilers.
So New Girl and Fargo.
Okay. So I'm going to go to literature.
Oh, Cody reads?
I do occasionally. So I took my licensing exam to be an LMSW, a licensed master of social work. While prepping, they mentioned a therapeutic modality that I had never heard of.
I don't even know what words we're using right now.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's called logos therapy or existential analysis.
The logos.
Yeah.
We're getting deep.
And it does come from the Greek word, yes.
All right.
So let me read you the synopsis of Man's Search for Meaning, because that's the name of this book.
Wow, okay.
Is an exploration of how one may find meaning in the most unusual places, even in the horrendous environment that was characteristic of Nazi Germany concentration camps. Viktor Frankl describes his lessons learned as a Holocaust survivor and how his experiences shaped his understanding of meaning. So essentially what this therapeutic model is about is if you can find your purpose, it's going to find meaning in your life, or you're going to have meaning in your life. And so even because he was at Auschwitz, he was at a couple other concentration camps, within the first 30 pages or so, you learn, oh, his wife's dead. You learn he lost both his parents. And another sibling. He only has one sibling after all this. But while he's there, he finds meaning and purpose not only through some of the remedial tasks that they have him doing, but he's also talking and counseling other concentration camp prisoners to help them continue on. He was a big psychologist before going into the concentration camp, but after that, while he's in it, he comes up with this therapeutic model. And then after that, he publishes this book in 1946. So not long after World War II ends, he literally is publishing this book. It's broke up into 3 parts. The first part is about his experiences in the concentration camp. And then the second and third parts are more about the therapeutic model, how you can apply it to your life, those sorts of things. It really goes good with those who might have a more biblical understanding of the world. And it was really interesting to read this while listening at around the same time to Taylor Swift's music. That, like I said, she's exploring how the cost of fame and some public relationships took a toll on her mental health. This guy literally was in maybe one of the worst environments in modern history, and he was finding purpose and meaning in it. And so if you feel like there isn't hope, there is hope for you out there. Connect with people.
Yeah, this may be one of those books where I've read the most about it without actually having read the actual book, because I've read several things about this, his theory, his theories about mental health, about being in these situations, and in religious circles too.
Yes,
because there's a lot in there about liturgy, like the day-to-day, like you mentioned him doing. He had a purpose. He had these remedial tasks he was doing, and how that kept his hope up. And that the people who didn't do anything and just lost hope quickly didn't make it very long.
Yes. And he kind of goes through some of that as well as you're reading it.
So what's the name of the book again? And the author, Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. I messaged you and DJ about it, and then DJ's like, oh, yeah, I read this when I was in middle school. And I'm like, they had you doing some heavy reading back then, amigo.
Yeah. Well, DJ's a reader. He probably read it on his own. I recently went back with my oldest daughter and watched The Blues Brothers. And we talked a little bit about The Blues Brothers when we talked about whether Dan Aykroyd was overrated, essentially. The Blues Brothers is the first movie based on a Saturday Night Live skit that comes out. It's probably The Blues Brothers' fault that we get all the SNL movies after that.
The ladies' man.
But I'm going to tell you right now, The Blues Brothers movie is magnificent. It's a masterpiece. There's no reason it should go as hard as it does, because they're making some corny jokes in there. But in between these corny jokes are, one, just incredible blues music. I mean, the musicians that are in this movie are amazing. Two, there are really hardcore cinematic shots in this movie for no apparent reason. Like, this was a movie where they literally like just crashed hundreds of old police cars for a scene. And yet you've got ultimate cinematic scenes. There's a musical scene where Ray Charles is he plays the owner of a pawn shop where they're trying to get a deal on some new instruments because they're getting the band back together. And Ray is playing it, and I paused the movie because I'm like, this is a movie based on an SNL skit, and the cinematic shot you see is Ray, close up of Ray's face, and you can see the keys in his hands in the reflection on his sunglasses. And I'm just like, there's just no reason that they're a movie based on an SNL skit should have a cinematic shot that goes that hard. Like, it's just amazing. It's so good. Dan Aykroyd going back to the well to make a Blues Brothers 2000 was atrocious. The movie was atrocious. The music was, again, pretty good, because I think that's what Dan Aykroyd actually loved, was actually the music, which is interesting to think about.
Oh, Dan. I will say that if I was SNL and I'm going to keep making these movies, I would have like up and coming directors that might have more of a visionary style. Yeah. Because the comedy is going to be whatever it is. If you like Will Ferrell, you're going to like the Will and Ferrell SNL movies. If you don't like Will Ferrell, you're going to be like, Night at the Roxbury's was annoying.
Yeah, this was directed by. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that might be your ticket to separating it from just your straight to DVD or streaming comedy.
This one was directed by John Landis, who directed Animal House, I believe, but was seen as kind of like as a visionary young director. But then there's an accident on one of his movies. It was the Twilight Zone movie. Oh. And he was viewed as somewhat negligent in a lot of people's eyes, and it really kind of crushed his career. But this movie has a lot of those visionary moments because there's such silly humor in it, like any SNL movie. But then it just has this weird, subtle things going on in it that are just kind of amazing. And it's the best, in my opinion, it's the best SNL movie. And this is coming from someone who loves Wayne's World. Love Wayne's World. But there's things going on in this movie in Blues Brothers that's amazing. And it had been a long time since I watched it. And when I did, I thought, man, this movie's really good. How many more you got?
3.
Okay, hit them fast style. I only got 1.
Oh, well, then I'll reduce to 2 so I can actually talk.
Okay.
So, Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. It's a documentary on Netflix.
I want to see it.
And so I didn't realize there were TikTok churches, like churches that try to get TikTok influencers, especially like dancers, to go to their church.
When you say church, you mean like Christian church?
Allegedly.
What?
And so this one focuses in on a very specific church. And the pastor of this church decides that he's going to create his own management label, 7M. And he creates essentially this closed off cult of TikTok celebs that are trying to influence, and eventually it falls apart for the most part. But you learn that the pastor has had shady dealings for a while. So many negative church docs. But this one also was negative towards TikTok. And so I watched all 3 episodes, and there were parts where I'm like, why would you stay? And then there were parts where I'm like, oh, I can see this almost being like the early church. there's so many ways to do church, but there's only a few that it is
The
honest,
commune style.
honest and true to like living a faithful, good life, and kind of that commune style that the early church is portrayed to have. And like you just see this, like people enter it kind of with pure motives, but the leadership is not pure, and so it becomes warped and it becomes ugly, and it's like,
Yeah. I don't know, man. I get tired. I get worn down by the Christian bad documentaries, and I can't wait to watch it. Who am I fooling? I'm going to watch this.
a lot of dancing. And like people that like, as I'm watching it, because I don't have TikTok, I never have. I'm like, oh, you were in that commercial, and oh, you were on the Ellen show, and you danced at Clippers games.
You don't watch TikTok. You don't have TikTok, but you watch Ellen.
I don't watch Ellen, but clips occasionally come across social media.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's your next one?
Okay, so I'm going to go to The Well. That spurs a lot of hate for Dave. Zachary Snyder. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I'm aware.
So Rebel Moon Part 2 dropped.
Are you serious? We're going Rebel Moon?
Part 2. And so what I have decided is,
You love slow motion action sequences.
well, I do enjoy them. But I think Zack Snyder cannot tell a short story to save his life. He cannot condense something. And so it's very long and drawn out. But if you stay with it and you are a fan of the story he's telling, then it pays off, like with Watchmen or with Rebel Moon Part 1. Part 2, it continues the story. And like other directors, I think probably could have combined Part 1 and Part 2 in a 2.5-hour movie. Zack Snyder, each movie is going to be 2.5 hours. But you're going to get some of the most amazing looking scenes.
That's never been under question.
And like I'm intrigued because they hype up Anthony Hopkins' character, but Anthony Hopkins' character is this robot, and he's only in like a few scenes of each movie. And so I'm like, I know there's another one that's coming, and so now I'm going to have to watch Part 3, see what I get from Anthony Hopkins' robot.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to undoubtedly give it to Zach for the cinematic qualities he puts in a movie. Watchmen's one of the prettiest movies I've ever seen. 300 also is amazing.
Which did I read? They're making a 300 series that he's going to be directing.
That didn't make our news cut, but why? Why are we doing that? They made a sequel to that. It was trash.
But did Snyder make the sequel?
No, I don't think so. And they also made a spin-off, The Immortals, which were the Persian army people.
I don't care about them, especially if Zack Snyder's not directing.
Shocking Xerxes slander. This is the only podcast you'll hear that on. Maybe Hardcore History. I don't know. Okay, for my last pop culture lately. Today was, as we're recording this, is Tuesday. And in our unbelievable. Is that a car alarm?
No.
Was that a police officer?
That was a siren.
Okay. Once an episode. We live in the hardened streets in Kansas.
It's basically the wasteland.
It's Mad Max out of here. Today is Tuesday as we're recording this. And on Tuesday, our little local movie theater has deals on theater. You can go to the theater for pretty cheap. And today, on a whim, also it's summer, so they have that early showing. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go see a movie so I can talk about it on the pod today. And I went and saw If.
Imaginary Friend?
Yeah, with Ryan Reynolds, directed by John Krasinski. And oh my goodness, this movie is just charming. It's just a charming movie. I mean, listen, it's pretty predictable, I think. But the charm is so heavy in it, which that's not unlike any other Ryan Reynolds movie. But I will say that the young girl who's the lead in this movie, this is the first time I remember seeing her, and she's fantastic. She's really, really good. Her name's Callie Fleming. Also, there's voices from just tons of people in this movie.
Stephen Carell.
Yeah, Steve Carell, his character is great in it. He's probably the one in it the most. It's only currently got 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know why that would be. I thought it was very charming, very, very good 2 hours spent in the movie. I want to talk about one scene in particular. It's right in the middle of the film. It's not going to be spoilery, so it shouldn't ruin your enjoyment.
Okay.
I'm coming out of this last week where it was recital week in my household. My daughters were dancing in their recital, which is always a chaotic, hectic week. I've watched my daughters dance for years. My oldest is 16, and she's just recently started talking about how she's not going to dance after high school. All kids, whether they're athletes or whatever, they somehow got to hit that point where I'm probably not doing this after high school. She hit it earlier than most. I'd say most kids, sports, dance, whatever, they think, oh, I can do this in college. And the realization doesn't set in for a lot of kids until later. But my 16-year-old had realized it, within the last couple of years, and said, yeah, I probably won't dance after high school. And so we just went through this week, and there's a scene in this movie where the movie is about imaginary friends and who can no longer be seen by their now grown human counterparts. And there's a scene where the grandmother of the main character is listening to a song that she danced to. And she's also said that she doesn't dance anymore somewhere in the movie. And so I'm getting really emotional just watching the scene, and she hears the music and she starts dancing. And this is an older actress. I don't know her name, but I've seen her before in other things.
Judi Dench.
Fiona Shaw. She's been in a lot of things. And she's dancing, and this is the imaginary friend who's viewing all this starts to glow, which means through the course of the song and the remembering of her youth and this wonderful dancing, she can see the imaginary friend again. And I just had this thought that I'm going to leave with y'all here at the end of our episode. Dancing is wonderful. I can't do it very well, but in my own personal space where I'm the only one there and nobody can see me, I think I'm really good. Because dancing essentially is moving along to the rhythm and the flow of a song. And what is a song if not a story? And what is a story if not our lives? And it dawned on me that dancing is just moving beautifully and gracefully along with the rhythms of a song, a story, of our lives. And I just want to encourage everyone here at the end of this episode. If you're thinking that you don't dance anymore, don't quit dancing. Kids, if you're listening, middle-aged adults like Cody and myself, even if they're senior citizens,
be safe.
Don't hurt yourself. But don't quit dancing. Don't quit moving through life with beauty and grace along with the rhythms of this life and the flow of this life. Just keep dancing. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm not going to ruin it with my movie reference I was going to make.
What? No, go ahead and ruin it. Cody's not a sentimental guy.
I am a sentimental guy, but so when you said that you watched If, it wasn't the only Imaginary Friends movie that came out recently. There's a movie called Imaginary, but it's a scary.
Oh, is that the scary one? Yeah.
I watched that one.
Do you have something sentimental and pretty to say about it? Don't go to sleep.
Make sure that your imaginary friends aren't wicked and evil.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We love you guys, and we're so glad that this pod can bring so many of us into community. In order to be a part of that community, follow us on social media. On Facebook, we have a Pop Culture Pastor community group that you can be a part of. Come hang out with us there. And, of course, subscribe, review this podcast on all the platforms we're on. That helps us out. And we'll see you next time.